Hey there everybody, welcome to Auto Bears, and this is the new Mark 8 Volkswagen Golf. Now originally I had prepared some spiel about how the Golf is an icon, how long it's been around and how many units it's sold, but you guys know that already, so I'm going to cut straight to the chase. This is the new Mark 8 Golf, and although Volkswagen say it is an all-new car, underneath it still has the same MQB chassis as the Mark 7 Golf, and the same can be said for the rest of the Volkswagen Group family in this segment. That's the Seat Leon, Skoda Octavia and Audi A3. Now with this new Golf we've got new exterior and interior styling, a huge boost in technology and connectivity. And I've had this Mark 8 Golf for a week and I'm going to let you know if it's still pretty much top of the class. When it comes to styling on the Mark 8 Golf, well, it's definitely got some. This has definitely been one of the main areas of discussion when talking about the new Golf. Now, yes, when it comes to the actual shape of the car, of course it looks like a Golf, but I don't think people were expecting this kind of revision to the headlights. Now, I think they will take a little bit of getting used to, but with this particular car, I have got the IQ Light Matrix LEDs, and it definitely gives it a more distinctive look, particularly with the daytime running lights. But it is something that has caused a lot of people to say, I'm happy with my Mark 7, and they're not really ready to go on to the Mark 8. Now, one area I really do like on the exterior of the Golf is the rear end. They've just sharpened everything up, and I do love all the little creases and curves. It definitely looks very sophisticated. But this just seems to be the one area of design on the new Golf that people are very indecisive about. The jury is still out awaiting its verdict. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Do you like the new Mark 8 styling, or do you prefer the Mark 7? This is actually quite similar to what Seat have done with the new Leon. People didn't really like the front end, but they liked the rear. I think it's something to do perhaps with making it a bit more grown up and sophisticated perhaps, because it still looks very elegant, but perhaps not in the way that we were expecting the Mark 8 to evolve. But anyway, that's enough of looking at the outside, and also I will mention I love this lime green. If I was going to go for a Golf, I would have it in this colour. That's how subtle I am. But anyway, that's enough of the outside of the new Mark 8 Golf. Let's have a little look at the inside. Sat in the front of the new Golf, you are greeted by a very comfortable and minimalistically designed cockpit. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Now firstly, getting in and out of the Golf is really easy because the doors open nice and wide. And then once you're sat in the driver's seat, you find that the seats themselves are very comfortable and there's plenty of adjustment. They even hold a big bear like me in place, but I will note I would like just a little bit more in lumbar support just to kind of keep me comfortable on a longer journey. But again, the perfect driving position is nice and easy because there's plenty of adjustment in the seats and also in the steering with both rake and reach adjustment, so that is handy. Then interior quality is pretty good in here as well. We've got nice soft touch plastics on top of the dash and on top of the doors, and we've got some fabric and leatherette here on the door panels. Then on the centre part of the console we have got this metal trim effect, although it is plastic, but lower down it is hard, scratchy plastics. So it is really good compared to a lot of its rivals in this class, but it's not really going to compete against the likes of the BMW 1 Series or Mercedes A-Class. Then we find that cubby spaces are really good in here as well. We got some decent sized door bins and they are lined with fabric, so loose items shouldn't really rattle around in there. Then in front of the gear lever we've got a little area there with wireless charging and 2 USB-C inputs. Then behind the gear lever we've got 2 cup holders with a very handy feature. So I'm going to use my McDonald's cup, shameless promotion. But you put it in there, press the button, and it holds the cup in place, which is really handy. There is a second cup holder just behind it with some rubber support, so you can put a bottle of drink in there. Just note, however, if you do go for the manual version of the Golf, which is what I've got here, and you have a tall bottle of drink, it is going to get in the way. Also, your 12-volt socket is located here as well. Then underneath the armrest we have got a little bit of additional storage, but other cars in this class have got a little bit more storage there. Then we have got the glove box, which is of an okay size, and surprisingly it's not lined with any fabric, so loose items will rattle around in there. But again, other cars have got slightly bigger glove boxes. And then finally, there's a little bit of netting here as well for your passenger, so they could put like a notepad and pen in there or something. So when it comes to cubby spaces, it's actually not too bad. But I have noticed that the cubby space that's usually found underneath the driver's side air vent has actually now disappeared. I don't know if that's a sign of cost cutting on this new Golf. And next we've got the design itself, which is really nice, especially when compared to the Seat Leon. Now I thought that was a very minimalist interior in terms of its design, but it actually feels more fussy compared to this Golf. And I think that's because we have things like the air vents protruding from the center console. Everything's just really nice and flush and integrated here on the Golf. And then we have got two screens here, which is what you have for your infotainment and digital driver display. They're both 10-inch screens and they are both standard on the entry-level Golf. You get things like Apple CarPlay, Android Auto and also wireless CarPlay as standard. And then what I like as well is that compared to the Seat Leon, where all the shortcut buttons and home buttons were actually on the screen, which made it a little bit difficult to use whilst on the move, here on the Golf we've actually got some, well, they're touch sensitive buttons here down below next to the hazard button. But what I like as well is if you're using the system whilst driving along, you can do things like change the fan strength of the air conditioning. So you would press the climate button, go up to the top, adjust your fan strength, and then go back and press the climate button to go back to where you were. So I've been using Apple CarPlay quite a lot with my time in the Golf, and that's been one feature I've actually really liked. The other thing as well, that most of the icons on the infotainment system are of a decent size, so it actually makes it again easier to operate when on the move. It's just a shame, however, it still feels like a step backwards in the way it's a bit Peugeot-esque in its usage, in the fact that you have to press an additional button to get to where you want to be. I'm just an old-fashioned fart really, and I just love dials and knobs and stuff which make it easier to adjust the temperature and the fan strength of your air conditioning. But all in all, this is going to be the future, and it is an easier system to use than what I found in the Seat Leon. And then on the steering wheel we have got your driver controls. So on the left hand side we have got the controls for the adaptive cruise control. Again, that is standard on all Golfs. And then on the right hand side we've got the driver display information system, so you can actually go through things like changing the view, as well as adjusting things like what kind of information you have integrated on the display. So just like the Leon, you can actually have it where it's a whole wide screen of sat-nav, but also from the left and right hand side you can actually have additional information on display, but at the same time you can get rid of it if you don't need it. And it's very easy to use just using the steering wheel controls. So that again is a feature I really do like, and I'm pretty much expecting to find that on things like the new Skoda Octavia and new Audi A3 as well. So it is a very handy feature. But all in all, it's a really lovely interior on this new Golf. I just wish that the usability was there and the same as what we had from the Mark 7. However, this just happens to be the way that the future is going. Another thing I really do like in here is the ambiance that the new Golf interior brings. So we've got light coloured seats in here. We've actually got the lighter interior rather than the darker interior. It's a free of charge cost option. And yeah, it does make it feel light and airy. What also helps is the panoramic glass sunroof. Okay, that is an optional extra. But again, it just means that the light comes into the cabin whilst you're driving. And another thing I really do like is if you're driving at night is the interior mood lighting. As standard, you can actually change it to 10 colours, and it is quite unique going through the different colour combinations and kind of showing your mood to passengers in the car. They very much enjoyed it as well. But all in all, yes, it's a very lovely interior on this new Golf. It's just a shame that the functionality isn't quite there compared to the Mark 7. But that's enough of looking at the front of this new Golf. Let's have a little sit down in the back. Sat in the back of the new Golf, it's actually not too bad back here. Now firstly, that driver's seat is set to my driving position. I'm 5'7" tall and 5'7" wide. And as you can see, I've got a good amount of knee room, and headroom is pretty good as well, considering we've got that panoramic glass sunroof. I do think you could get a couple of 6-footers sat in the back of the Golf. However, cars such as the Skoda Scala and Seat Leon I actually think have a bit more rear passenger space, and that is surprising, particularly with the Leon, because they are the same car underneath. Cubby spaces are pretty good as well. We've got some decent sized door bins and they are lined with fabric. We've got your aeroplane style pockets on the backs of the front seats, We've also got a couple of additional pockets here on the tops of the seats, which are perfect for putting a mobile phone. So that is quite handy. And then we have got the pull down armrest, and we have got a couple of extra cup holders here, and also we can actually get the ski chute down so you can load longer items through from the boot area, so that is something. We've also got a couple of air vents, and you can clearly see the gap where you can get things like tri-zone climate control and also heated rear seats. And then just underneath there we have got 2 additional USB-C inputs, so your kids can actually charge up their mobile devices whilst they're tucked into the seats and they're having a bit of a snooze. Speaking of snoozing, when it comes to ISOFIX supports on the outer seats, what I do like, surprisingly, is there's actually a little cap there on a hinge, so it makes it really easy to affix a child seat. I was expecting the kind of detachable caps that you have on there, which are easy to break and easy to lose, so that is a genuinely nice surprise. And what's also nice and surprising is that on the front passenger seat you also get an additional ISOFIX support, so you can affix 3 child seats in here if you are a very randy person. And then finally we got the windows themselves, which are of a really nice size and they do allow a lot of light in. It is just a shame, however, that they don't open all the way down and that the tops of the doors are hard scratchy plastic, but then again that's kind of the norm in this segment of car. But all in all, it is actually really nice back here, but it's not as spacious as some of its key rivals. But you know what, I think that's enough of looking at the back of the new Golf. Let's have a little look at that boot. Opening the boot of the new Golf presents you with 380 litres of space, so it actually is exactly the same as what you had from the previous generation Golf. So that is a little bit disappointing. However, it's not devoid of features. We have got a variable boot floor, we got some sturdy tethering hooks, some shopping hooks and a 12-volt socket. Not to mention the ski hatch I showed you earlier, so you can load longer items through into the loading area. The only thing that's a little bit disappointing is that you can't put the partial shelf underneath the boot floor if you need to put the seats down. It'll have to get tucked away somewhere else. But all in all, it's not too bad actually. I mean, it's not the class best, it's not going to scare the likes of the Skoda Octavia, but it is a decent usable space. And I do like as well that we have actually got a space saver spare wheel on this particular car, so that is something. But yeah, all in all, it's a little bit disappointing that it hasn't grown in capacity, considering that the Golf itself has actually grown a little bit. But you know what, it's fine for everyday usage. And you know what, I think that's enough of looking at the boot of the new Golf. Let's take it for a drive. Once you get driving in the new Golf, first impressions are really good. It's a lovely, easy, comfortable place to be. Visibility is not too bad either. We have got some reasonably thick A-pillars, and on a couple of occasions I have found myself looking around them at junctions. Looking over your shoulder is not too bad. There is a bit of a C-pillar there, but it's not as bad as some cars like the Mazda 3 and Toyota Corolla. The one thing you haven't got on this Life trim is blind spot monitoring, so that's just something to be aware of. But rear visibility is absolutely fine. It's pretty much the norm for this segment. But all in all, yeah, the new Golf is very much like the Mark 7. It's a nice, comfortable car to drive, and it's actually really easy to drive as well. It does feel like a plush vehicle. So yeah, first impressions of the new Golf are really good. Now, at the time of recording, there are 3 trim levels to go for in the Golf range. The entry-level Life, which is what I've got here, the Style, and the R-Line, which is kind of the sporty-looking one. Now, my personal pick of the range is actually going to be this Life, the entry-level Golf. And the reason being is, in terms of standard equipment, you have got everything that you could possibly want and need in a car. I mean, I've got things like front and rear parking sensors, adaptive cruise control, I've got automatic lights, climate control, that 10-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I mean, I've got everything that I could possibly want in a car. And then what I'd recommend is, if you do want to add any additional options to your Golf, then by all means do so. Save yourself a little bit of money rather than going up the spec ladder. Also on this Life, we have got the granted visually unappealing 16-inch alloy wheels, but you will find that they are a bit of a blessing when we get to the ride and handling part of the review. So yeah, in terms of spec, definitely the Life is the one to go for. So, engine choices in the Golf range. Right, there are quite a few to choose from. Are you ready? Because here I go. Petrol wise, there's an entry level 1 litre 3-cylinder turbo with 108 brake horsepower, but that is reserved for the life only. Personally, skip it, go straight for the lower powered 1.5 litre TSI 4-cylinder turbocharged unit with 128 brake horsepower. You can also get the exact same engine, but this time with 148 brake horsepower, and that's what I've got here with either a 6-speed manual or 7-speed DSG. We then have the same engine again, but that only comes as a DSG because that is a mild hybrid and that is an eTSI. We then have two diesels, both of them 2 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged units, one with 113 brake horsepower and the other with 148 brake horsepower. And you can get a combination of manual or automatic gearboxes with those. Okay, I hope you got all that. Now, yes, there is going to be a couple of 2 litre turbocharged units for the GTI, GTD and GTE, but they'll be later on, and if I manage to get a GTI for review, of course I'll talk about those engines then. But my pick of the range is actually the engine I've got here, and again it's what Volkswagen actually believe is going to be the most popular engine. This 1.5 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged unit with 148 brake horsepower. Excuse me. Now, I've got the 6-speed manual, but personally, I'd recommend the 7-speed DSG. And the reason being is you've got the adaptive cruise control, which with a manual gearbox is not the most comfortable thing to drive, especially when you've got to kind of go up and down through the gears. If you've got the DSG, it just makes it a far more relaxing drive. Not only that, but I have actually experienced that this car has got kind of the next level of autonomy. And by that I mean, when you've got standard adaptive cruise control, which I've experienced before, if the car in front of you slows down, you slow down. If it speeds up, you speed up. I've even been in a traffic jam where I've had traffic jam assist and it will stop and then move on as the traffic moves on. All absolutely fine, and for most people, not a problem in the world. But what I've noticed now with this version is driving along, it's absolutely fine. It seems to be kind of linked to the sat-nav because I'll get a prompt on the infotainment system and on the driver display to tell me that there is a roundabout coming up in about 200 yards. And the car actually starts braking before I get to that roundabout. And it's not because there's a car in front of me. In fact, I did it the first time I experienced it. There was no car in front of me. I was completely on my own on a dual carriageway. And it is quite eerie when the car starts slowing down, preparing for a roundabout. So that's another reason why I do recommend the DSG, because as it slows down, it'll go through the gears. With the manual, yes, you do get a prompt to take over the control of the car because it's not a full autonomous system. It's only a guide and an aid to kind of make the drive a bit more relaxing for you. So again, yes, that's what I recommend in terms of the engines. The 1.5 litre, 148 brake horsepower with the 7-speed DSG. There you go. I know that was a lot of information for you, so I do apologise again. So what's the ride and handling like in the Golf? Well, as I mentioned earlier, the trim level to go for is the Life trim, or the entry-level Life, because one of the features you get is those 16-inch alloy wheels and quite a thick sidewall to the tyre. And as a result, it means you've actually got a very comfortable ride. It's very compliant, deals with most of the bumps and imperfections really well. And there's really not much in the way of tyre roll coming into the cabin unless you drive over a poor bit of tarmac. Now, I have experienced going over a couple of bits of kind of potholes and undulations on the road. It has boomed and there's been a bit of vibration coming into the cabin, but it is something I have experienced on other Volkswagen Group cars, so it's not just isolated. It's not just isolated to the Golf. I have no idea what happened there, but the lady's asking me what I want. Anyway, so in terms of ride, yeah, it's absolutely fine, and refinement levels are... Cancel?
You can use voice control to operate the radio and media
navigations. Okay. Handling wise, well, as I said right at the beginning, the first impression is the Golf handles really nicely. It's a very easy car to drive. The steering wheel is really nice in your hands. It is quite thick though, it's a bit chunkier than I was expecting to be. Now that could be because I've got a heating element in there, I'm not sure, but it feels very nice in your hands, and in terms of the ride, it's absolutely fine. Perfect for everyday driving. It's got a nice bit of weight to it, but at the same time it's very easy to manoeuvre the Golf in tight spaces like car parks, as well as just kind of driving about town and city streets. It's absolutely fine. There is a little bit of roll in the corners, but I would not say that it's enough to kind of get you a bit motion sick or make you feel a bit queasy, but it's definitely showing that the Golf in non-GTI or non-sporty trim is not a sporty car. It's definitely built for comfort and not sporty prowess. Now I would say that the Seat Leon would be the sporty car to go for, but even the Seat Leon's kind of lost a little bit of its fun factor. So if you are after a family hatchback that's going to put a smile on your face, you've got to go for the Ford Focus. That is miles ahead of everyone else when it comes to handling. They've just got that spot on. So the best thing I can say about the Golf in terms of summing up the ride and handling is it's just really good all round. It's not the best, it's just very good at everything. Being a typical Golf, basically. So what are my thoughts on the new Volkswagen Golf? Well, okay, that's a niggle right there. If you say Volkswagen Golf, a voice activation system comes up. So, Volkswagen have taken the Mark 7 Golf. Volkswagen have taken the Mark 7 Golf and turned it up a couple of degrees. Obviously not using a physical dial, they've done it via the touchscreen. And as a result, it's still going to be technically top of the class, because the Golf is a jack of all trades but a master of none. Where you get some cars in this segment where they are a master of a specific area, they're let down in other areas. So, for example, you want the best riding car, you go for the Toyota Corolla. However, the infotainment system is not as good as the Golf's. You want the best handling car, you go for a Ford Focus, but the build quality is not as good as the Golf's. And then you go for the most practical car, which is a Skoda Octavia, but it's just not as nice to drive as the Golf. And that's the thing, the Golf is that jack of all trades, and as a result it'll always be at the top of this family car segment. It covers everything really well, and as a result it just ticks all the boxes. Volkswagen do an amazing job of making the Golf, and that's the thing. It is, yeah, it's a lovely car all round, but it's just not brilliant in any particular area. And I think styling wise now, yes, it's quite a divisive subject, but I don't think people are going to care. This is still going to sell by the shed load, even though it's got that front end on there. And you know what? I think we'll all get used to it. So there you go, the Golf Mark 8. Jack of all trades, still the king of the family hatchback segment. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed my review of the new Mark 8 Golf. As always, please hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notifications icon to let you know when I, Dave the Auto Bear, bring out a new video. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and always recommend you follow me on there for additional content, including live videos and still images, not just of the cars that I review, but also of any events I go to. And if you've got any questions about the Golf and my time with it, please put them down in the comments section below. And are you a new Golf owner and have I missed anything? Please let me know down below. So guys, I hope you've had a wonderful day. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've maintained your social distancing, wear a mask if needed, and stay safe. And I will catch you all in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.